You're not real. At least, not in the way you think you are. Right now, in this very moment, you believe you're a fixed thing. A person with a past. A story. A set of circumstances that define what's possible for you. You think your life is the result of what happened to you. But what if I told you that everything you believe about how change works is backwards? What if the reason you're stuck isn't because you lack willpower, discipline, or opportunity, but because you've been lied to about the fundamental mechanism of transformation itself? Here's what nobody talks about. Ancient civilizations, the Hermetic scholars, the Vedic mystics, the Egyptian priests, they understood something about reality that modern society has deliberately forgotten. They knew that change doesn't come from force. It doesn't come from grinding. It doesn't come from fighting against who you are. It comes from something else entirely. Something that's been hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. The texts are still here. The knowledge is still accessible. But it's been buried under layers of productivity hacks and motivational lies that keep you running in circles. Exhausted, wondering why nothing ever truly shifts. You've been taught to push, to hustle, to force your way into a different life. But the ancient masters, they did the opposite. They understood that reality isn't solid, that your life isn't fixed, that you, right now, reading this, are not a finished product, but a frequency. And frequencies can be changed, not through effort, through resonance. So let me ask you something. Are you ready to stop fighting and start flowing? Are you ready to discover the one piece of the puzzle that's been missing this entire time? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And your life will never be the same. Let's start with something you've probably noticed, but never fully questioned. Have you ever worked incredibly hard for something, poured your heart into it, sacrificed sleep, relationships, peace of mind, only to watch it slip through your fingers? And then, almost mockingly, you've seen someone else get the exact same thing with what seems like no effort at all. They didn't work harder. They didn't want it more. They didn't deserve it more than you. But somehow, it just came to them. You've been told this is luck, privilege, timing, being in the right place at the right time. But what if it's none of those things? What if there's an invisible mechanism operating beneath the surface of reality? A set of laws that govern how things manifest, how circumstances shift, how lives transform. And what if most people are completely blind to it? The ancient traditions didn't call it luck. They called it alignment. And here's the uncomfortable truth that no self-help guru wants you to know. You can work yourself to the bone, follow every step of every system, check every box on every list, and still get nowhere because you're operating on the wrong frequency. Think about a radio for a moment. You can have the most expensive radio in the world, the clearest speakers, the most powerful antenna. But if you're tuned to 95.5 FM and the station you want is broadcasting on 101.3, you're going to hear static. No amount of willpower changes the station. No amount of positive thinking makes 95.5 become 101.3. You have to change the frequency. And that's what they've hidden from you. The modern world has convinced you that change is about doing more, adding more habits, reading more books, working longer hours, becoming more disciplined. But the ancient systems understood something radically different. They understood that transformation isn't addition, it's tuning.
The Hermetic texts, writings that predate Christianity by thousands of years, speak of a principle called mentalism, the idea that all is mind, that the universe itself is mental in nature, that reality as you experience it is a projection, a reflection, a mirror, not a motivational metaphor, a literal mechanism.
Modern quantum physics is only now catching up to what the mystics knew intuitively. The observer effect, the collapse of the wave function, the idea that consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it participates in creating it. But here's where it gets disturbing. If reality is a mirror, then your life, right now, in all its beauty and all its suffering, is showing you exactly what frequency you're broadcasting. Not what you want to broadcast, not what you think you're broadcasting, what you're actually broadcasting. And most people, they're broadcasting on a frequency they don't even know exists. Let me show you what I mean. You wake up in the morning and you tell yourself, today is going to be different. I'm going to change. I'm going to be more confident, more productive, more present. And you mean it. You really do. But within an hour, you're scrolling through your phone, comparing yourself to strangers, feeling that familiar knot of inadequacy in your chest. You're snapping at the people you love. You're procrastinating on the things that matter. You're repeating the exact same patterns you swore you'd break. Why? Because you tried to change the reflection without changing the frequency. You tried to rearrange the furniture in the mirror. And it doesn't work that way. The ancient masters understood that the external world is always a lagging indicator. It's the echo, not the voice. It's the shadow, not the body. If you want to change the echo, you have to change the voice. If you want to change the shadow, you have to move the body. But we've been conditioned to do the opposite, to chase the shadow, to scream at the echo. We try to fix our relationships without fixing our relationship with ourselves. We try to fix our bank accounts without fixing our relationship with value. We try to fix our bodies without fixing our relationship with worthiness. And we wonder why nothing sticks. Here's the secret they don't want you to know. Your current life is a perfect match to your current frequency, not your goals, not your vision board, not your affirmations, your frequency. And your frequency is determined by the sum total of your unconscious beliefs, your unprocessed emotions, your inherited patterns, and the stories you've been telling yourself since childhood, most of which you're not even aware of. You think you're broadcasting, I deserve abundance. But deep down, beneath the conscious mind, there's a signal running that says, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I don't belong, I'm unsafe. And reality doesn't care about your intentions. It responds to your signal. So if you want to change your life, if you truly want to transform, you can't just set better goals or build better habits. You have to change the signal. You have to become a different frequency. And that's not something you do. It's something you allow. Let me take you deeper. The Vedic traditions speak of something called samsara, the wheel of cyclic existence. The idea that most human beings are trapped in a loop, repeating the same patterns, lifetime after lifetime, experience after experience, not because they're cursed, but because they're unconscious. They're running on autopilot. And the autopilot was programmed a long time ago. Think about it. How much of your daily life is actually chosen? How much is just automatic? You wake up at the same time. You think the same thoughts. You feel the same emotions. You have the same arguments. You make the same choices. Different day, same frequency. And the universe, being the perfect mirror that it is, gives you the same results. This is what the Buddhists call ignorance, not stupidity, not lack of information, but a fundamental misunderstanding of how reality operates. You think you're a person trying to change your circumstances, but the ancient teachings say you're not a person at all. You're awareness wearing a costume, consciousness playing a role, the infinite pretending to be finite. And the moment you forget that, the moment you identify completely with the character, with the story, with the circumstances, you become trapped in the loop. Because the character can't escape the story, only the awareness behind the character can. This is why trying harder doesn't work. You can't force your way out of a dream by running faster inside the dream. You have to wake up. And waking up. That's what the ancients meant by enlightenment. Not some mystical state reserved for monks in caves. Just seeing clearly. Seeing that the prison was never locked. That the limitations were never real. That you've been free this entire time. You just didn't know it. But here's the problem. The modern world is designed to keep you asleep. To keep you identified with the character. To keep you believing that you are your thoughts, your emotions, your circumstances, your past. Because a person who knows they're dreaming is dangerous. They can't be controlled. They can't be sold to. They can't be convinced that they're small. So the system gives you distractions. It gives you crises. It gives you an endless stream of problems to solve, desires to chase, fears to avoid. It keeps you busy. And a busy mind never questions. A busy mind never stops to ask, wait, who am I really? What is this? What's actually happening here? The ancient Egyptians had a practice called dying before you die. The initiates would go into the pyramids, which were never tombs, by the way, that's another lie, and they would undergo a ritual death. They would face the void, the emptiness, the dissolution of everything they thought they were. And if they survived the terror of it, if they didn't go insane, they would emerge reborn, not as a better version of themselves, as something entirely new, because they had seen through the illusion. They had touched the truth beneath the story. They had remembered what they were before they became someone. And once you remember that, once you truly see it, your life has no choice but to change, because you're no longer operating from the same place. You're no longer trying to fix the character. You're creating from the awareness that writes the script. Now, let's get practical, because I know what you're thinking. This sounds beautiful, poetic, mystical, but how do I actually use this? How do I change the frequency? How do I tune the dial? And that's the right question. But before I answer it, you need to understand something crucial. This isn't a technique. It's not a hack. It's not something you add to your routine. It's a complete inversion of how you've been living. The ancient teachings don't give you a 5-step formula. They give you a principle, a way of seeing, a lens through which reality reveals its true nature. And once you see through that lens, the techniques don't matter anymore, because you realize that you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to stop pretending to be what you're not. But let's talk about the mechanism anyway, because there is a mechanism. And it's encoded in every ancient tradition, from Hermeticism to Taoism to the Kabbalistic mysteries. It comes down to 3 fundamental shifts, 3 inversions that completely rewire how you interact with reality. First, the shift from doing to being. You've been taught that you have to do something to become someone, that you have to work hard to deserve success, that you have to prove yourself to be worthy of love, that you have to achieve to be valuable. But the ancient wisdom says it backwards. You have to be it first, not pretend to be it, not fake it till you make it, not affirm it while secretly doubting it. Actually embody the frequency of the thing you want to experience. And I know that sounds abstract, So let me make it concrete. Let's say you want financial abundance. The modern approach is to work harder, make more money, save more, invest smarter. All external actions. But the ancient approach asks, what is the frequency of abundance? Not the symptom, not the manifestation, the frequency itself. And when you sit with that question, when you really feel into it, you realize that abundance isn't about having a lot of money. It's about feeling safe, feeling free, feeling generative, feeling like there's always enough, feeling like you're part of a flow rather than fighting for scraps. That's the frequency. And here's the strange part. You can access that frequency right now, in this moment, with nothing changing in your external circumstances. You can feel abundant with $10 in your bank account. You can feel scarcity with 10 million. Because abundance isn't a number. It's a state of being. And the universe, reality, the mirror, it doesn't respond to what you have. It responds to what you are. So if you want abundance, you don't chase money. You become the frequency of abundance. You start making choices from that place. You start moving through the world as if you're already abundant. Not because you're delusional, but because you've realized that abundance is an internal condition, not an external one. And when you embody that frequency consistently, when it's not just a practice, but your natural state, the external world has no choice but to reorganize itself around that signal, not through magic, through resonance, like attracts like. Frequency attracts matching frequency. This is basic physics, basic metaphysics, basic truth. But we've been taught to ignore it. Second shift, from control to surrender. This one disturbs people, because we've been conditioned to believe that control is power, that if you're not forcing, pushing, making things happen, you're weak, passive, irresponsible. But the ancient traditions understood something the modern mind refuses to accept. There are forces at work in reality that are far more intelligent than your conscious mind. The Taoists called it Wu Wei, effortless action, the art of moving with the current rather than against it. The Hermetic texts speak of rhythm and cycles, the idea that everything in nature has a pulse, a rise and fall, an expansion and contraction. And trying to force growth during a contraction phase, or trying to rest during an expansion phase, is like trying to make the tide come in by pushing the water. It just exhausts you. Most people are stuck because they're fighting against the rhythm of their own life. They're trying to make something happen in a season of letting go. They're trying to hold on in a season of release, and they wonder why it feels so hard. Here's what the masters knew. There is a time for planting and a time for harvesting, a time for building and a time for dissolving, a time for action and a time for stillness. And the skill, the true skill, is not in forcing your agenda onto reality. It's in sensing which phase you're in and aligning with it. When you're in alignment with the rhythm, everything flows, doors open, opportunities appear. The right people show up at the right time, not because you're lucky, because you're in harmony with the current. But when you're out of alignment, when you're forcing, when you're swimming upstream, everything is friction, everything is struggle, and no amount of effort makes it easier, because you're fighting the river. So how do you surrender without giving up? How do you stop controlling without becoming passive? You learn to listen. You learn to feel the subtle signals, the intuition, The inner knowing that says, not yet, or now, or this way, not that way. And you trust it, even when it doesn't make logical sense. Even when everyone around you is saying you're crazy. Even when your mind is screaming at you to do something, anything, because doing nothing feels like dying. That's the test. That's where most people fail. They can't tolerate the void, the uncertainty, the not knowing. So they force, they control, they cling, and they create the exact resistance they're trying to avoid. But the ones who learn to surrender, the ones who learn to trust the intelligence that's operating beneath the surface, they find a kind of power that effort could never produce. They become conduits, channels, instruments of something larger than their personal will. And life stops being a battle. It becomes a dance. Third shift, from accumulation to transmutation. This is the alchemical principle, and it's the most misunderstood. You've been taught that change means adding good things and removing bad things. Add better habits, remove bad ones. Add positive thoughts, remove negative ones. Add healthy relationships, remove toxic ones. But the ancient alchemists knew something different. They knew that you can't actually remove anything. Energy doesn't disappear. It only transforms. So the anger you're trying to suppress, it doesn't go away. It just goes underground. It becomes resentment, bitterness, passive aggression. It leaks out sideways. The fear you're trying to avoid, it doesn't vanish. It becomes anxiety, overthinking, paralysis. The pain you're trying to numb, it doesn't dissolve. It becomes addiction, numbness, disconnection. This is why positive thinking doesn't work. Because you're trying to paint over rust. You're trying to put a smile on top of suffering. And reality, it sees through it. The alchemical approach is completely different. It says, take the lead and turn it into gold. Take the darkness and transmute it into light. Take the wound and transform it into wisdom, not by denying it, not by transcending it, not by spiritually bypassing it, but by going into it, by feeling it fully, by allowing it to burn through you until it reveals what it's been hiding all along. Because here's the secret that no one tells you. Your deepest wounds are your greatest power. Not in some cliché, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger way, but in a literal, energetic, alchemical way. The places where you've been broken, those are the places where light can enter. The places where you've suffered, those are the places where compassion is born. The places where you felt powerless, those are the places where true power awakens. But only if you're willing to turn toward them instead of away. Only if you're willing to sit in the fire and let it refine you. The ancient initiates understood this. That's why they went into the darkness voluntarily, why they faced their demons, why they descended into the underworld before they could ascend to the heavens. Because transformation doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the void, in the space between who you were and who you're becoming, in the death of the old self and the birth of the new. And that space, it's terrifying. It's disorienting. It feels like you're falling apart, because you are. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly by trying harder to be a better caterpillar. It dissolves completely. It becomes soup. It surrenders to the destruction of everything it knew itself to be. And only then, in that complete dissolution, does something new emerge. This is what the mystics meant by rebirth, by resurrection, by the death of the ego. Not a metaphor, a process. And if you're feeling like your life is falling apart right now, If you're in the void, in the chaos, in the uncertainty, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're transforming. Maybe the old frequency is dissolving, so a new one can emerge. And the worst thing you could do, the absolute worst thing, is try to put yourself back together the way you were. Because that version of you, it's done. It's complete. It served its purpose. And now something else is trying to be born. But it can't come through if you're clinging to what's dying. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to? What version of yourself are you refusing to let go of? What story are you clutching even though it's suffocating you? Because until you release it, until you allow the dissolution, you'll stay stuck in the in-between. Not dead, not alive, just waiting. And the universe doesn't reward waiting. It rewards movement, evolution, transformation, even when it looks like destruction. Now, here's where it all comes together. The ancient systems weren't giving you theory. They were giving you a map, a navigation system for reality. And the map says this: your life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. You're not a victim of circumstance. You're a focal point of consciousness, a tuning fork, a frequency generator. And every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold, it's sending out a signal. And reality is listening. Not judging, not rewarding or punishing, just matching, like a mirror, like an echo, like a resonance chamber. So if your life isn't what you want it to be, the question isn't, what do I need to do differently? The question is, what frequency am I broadcasting? And that's a much harder question to answer, because it requires brutal honesty. It requires you to look beneath the surface, beneath the stories, beneath the excuses and justifications and blame. It requires you to take full responsibility, not for what happened to you, but for how you're holding it, for what you've made it mean, for the frequency you've been running as a result. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't want that responsibility. They want to believe they're victims. They want to believe it's someone else's fault. They want to believe that if only the world were different, if only people were different, if only circumstances were different, then they could be happy. But the ancient teachings say, that's the trap, that's the loop, that's samsara. Because as long as you're waiting for the external world to change, you're powerless. You're at the mercy of forces you can't control. But the moment you realize that your experience of reality is generated from within, the moment you take full ownership of your frequency, everything shifts. Because now, you're not trying to change the world. You're changing yourself. And when you change yourself, the world you experience changes automatically. Not because the world is different, but because you're perceiving it through a different frequency. Let me give you an example. Two people lose their jobs on the same day. Same circumstances, same economy, same bad luck. One person spirals into depression. They feel victimized, betrayed, powerless. They spend months bitter and resentful, wondering why this happened to them. The other person, they grieve, they feel the loss, but they also sense an opening, a possibility, a redirection. They start exploring options they would never have considered. They take a risk, they pivot, and 6 months later, they're in a completely different place. Not because they got lucky, but because they were operating on a different frequency. Same event, different frequency, different reality. This is what the Hermetic principle of mentalism means in practice. The external event is neutral. It's your internal state, your frequency, that determines how you experience it and what becomes possible as a result. And once you see this, once you really get it, you can never unsee it. You start noticing it everywhere, in your relationships, in your career, in your health, in every area of your life. You start seeing the patterns, the loops, the ways you've been unconsciously creating the very thing you say you don't want. Not because you're broken, but because you've been running on a frequency that attracts it. And the beautiful thing, the truly liberating thing, is that you can change it. Not overnight, not with a magic spell or a positive affirmation, but through a gradual, deliberate recalibration of your entire being, through awareness, through presence, through the courage to feel what you've been avoiding and release what you've been clinging to, through the willingness to die to who you were, so you can become who you're meant to be. And that process, that's the real work. That's the alchemical transformation. That's what the ancient masters spent their entire lives devoted to. Not accumulating knowledge, not achieving goals, not gaining power over others, but mastering themselves, becoming conscious, becoming free, becoming the frequency they wanted to experience. And when you commit to that path, when you stop looking for shortcuts and quick fixes and external solutions, something miraculous happens. Your life starts to reorganize itself, not through effort, not through force, but through a kind of natural, organic unfoldment. The right people show up, the right opportunities appear, the right insights emerge. Not because you're manifesting, not because you're attracting, but because you've become a match to a different level of reality. You've tuned into a different station, and that station, it was always there, always broadcasting, always available. You just couldn't receive it before, because you were tuned to a different frequency. But now you know how to change the dial. So let me give you something practical, something you can actually use. Not a technique, not a ritual, but a principle, a way of being that the ancient masters embodied. It's simple, devastatingly simple, but it will change everything if you actually apply it. Here it is. Become the observer. That's it. That's the practice. Not positive thinking, not visualization, not affirmations or manifestation rituals, just observation. Become aware of the thoughts running through your mind without identifying with them. Notice the emotions moving through your body without becoming them. Watch the patterns playing out in your life without defending them or justifying them. Just see. See clearly. See honestly. See without judgment. Because here's what happens when you become the observer. The identification starts to loosen. You start to realize that you're not your thoughts. You're the awareness noticing the thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're the space in which emotions arise and pass. You're not your circumstances. You're the consciousness experiencing the circumstances. And that shift, that tiny, subtle shift in identity, it changes everything. Because now, you're not trapped inside the story. You're watching it. You're holding it. You're creating it. And what you can see, you can change. Not by force, but by choice, by awareness, by consciously choosing a different frequency in each moment. Let me show you how this works in real time. You wake up tomorrow morning and immediately you feel that familiar heaviness, that sense of dread, that voice that says, "Here we go again." The old pattern would be to believe it, to identify with it, to let it set the tone for your entire day. But if you're the observer, you notice it, you feel it, you acknowledge it. Ah, there's the heaviness, there's the dread, there's the voice. And in that noticing, there's space, there's separation, there's freedom. Because you're not the heaviness. You're the one noticing the heaviness. And from that place, you have a choice. You can feed it, you can spiral into it, you can let it run the show. Or Bernard, you can thank it for trying to protect you, acknowledge that it's just an old frequency, and choose differently. Not by forcing positivity, not by denying what you feel, but by consciously tuning to a different channel, by asking, what frequency do I want to embody today? What state of being do I want to create from? And then, dropping into that frequency, not thinking about it, not trying to manufacture it, but actually feeling it, breathing it, becoming it. Even if it's just for a moment, even if it's just one conscious breath, that one moment of conscious choice. That's the seed. That's the beginning. That's the crack in the pattern. And if you do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that, those moments start to accumulate. They start to build momentum. And gradually, almost imperceptibly, your baseline frequency starts to shift. Not because you forced it, but because you've been watering a different seed. This is what the ancients meant by practice. Not a technique you do for 10 minutes and then forget about, but a way of living, a moment-to-moment remembering of who you actually are. And the more you remember, the less power the old frequency has. The less you identify with the thoughts, the less you're controlled by the emotions, the less you're defined by the circumstances. Until one day, you wake up and realize that you're not the same person you were 6 months ago. Not because you tried to change, but because you became aware. And awareness is the only thing that actually transforms. Everything else is just rearranging furniture. Now, I need to tell you something important. Something the ancient texts warn about, but that modern spirituality conveniently ignores. This path is not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Because the moment you start to wake up, the moment you start to change your frequency, everything in your life that's not aligned with that new frequency will start to fall away. Relationships will end. Jobs will dissolve. Identities will crumble. Certainties will evaporate. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're outgrowing the container. And the container, it doesn't want to let you go. Your ego doesn't want to let you go. Your old patterns don't want to let you go. The people around you who are invested in you staying the same, they don't want to let you go. So there will be resistance. There will be fear. There will be moments where you question everything and want to go back to the way things were, even if the way things were was painful, because at least it was familiar. The ancient initiates called this the dark night of the soul, the moment where everything you thought you knew dissolves and you're left in the void with nothing to hold on to. And this is where most people turn back. They can't handle the uncertainty, the groundlessness, the feeling of free falling through empty space with no guarantee of landing. So they grab onto the old frequency. They reconstruct the old identity. They go back to the familiar prison, and they tell themselves it was all just a phase, a fantasy, a spiritual delusion. But the ones who make it through, the ones who keep observing, keep breathing, keep trusting even when there's nothing to trust, they discover something on the other side of the void. They discover that the ground was never real to begin with, that the security they were clinging to was just another story, that they are the ground, they are the source, they are the frequency itself. And once you know that, once you've touched that, you can never truly be afraid again. Because what is there to fear when you realize that you're not a fragile, separate self trying to survive in a hostile world, but the awareness in which all worlds appear and disappear? What is there to protect when you realize that nothing can be gained or lost because you are the totality of existence wearing a temporary mask? What is there to control when you realize that the river you've been fighting against is you? This is the final teaching, the ultimate secret, the truth that every ancient tradition was pointing toward. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. You are not having an experience. You are the experiencing itself. And when you stop trying to be someone, when you stop trying to become something, when you stop trying to fix, improve, perfect, optimize, and you simply rest in what you already are, everything changes. Not because you changed reality, but because you stopped resisting it. And in that surrender, that complete, total, absolute letting go of trying to be anything other than what you are in this moment, you discover the freedom you've been seeking your entire life. Not out there, not in the future, not in different circumstances. Right here, right now, in the midst of everything exactly as it is. This is what the masters meant by enlightenment, by liberation, by awakening. Not some transcendent state where you float above the human experience, but the simple recognition that you were never bound to begin with, that the prison was always imaginary, that you are, and always have been, free. So here you are, at the edge of everything you thought you knew, with a choice in front of you. You can close this video and go back to the way things were, back to the grind, back to the hustle, back to trying to force your way into a different life through sheer willpower and effort. And maybe that will work for you. Maybe you'll be one of the rare ones who brute forces their way into happiness. But probably not, because that's not how the mechanism works. Or you can take what you've heard here and actually use it, not as a theory, not as an interesting idea, but as a lived practice. You can start observing. You can start noticing the frequency you're broadcasting. You can start making conscious choices about who you're being instead of just reacting to who you've always been. You can stop trying to change the reflection and start changing the source. You can stop fighting the river and start flowing with it. You can stop trying to become something and start recognizing what you already are. And if you do that, if you actually commit to this path, I can't promise you that your life will look the way you think it should. I can't promise you wealth or success or perfect relationships or any of the things the manifestation gurus sell. But I can promise you something better. I can promise you that you'll become real, that you'll stop living in a dream and start living in reality, that you'll stop being controlled by unconscious patterns and start creating consciously, that you'll stop feeling like a victim of circumstance and start experiencing yourself as the source of your experience. And that is worth more than anything you could ever manifest. Because once you have that, once you know that, nothing can touch you. Not failure, not loss, not rejection, not death itself. Because you've remembered what you are beneath all the stories. And what you are, it can't be diminished. It can't be damaged. It can't be destroyed. It simply is. Eternal, unchanging, free. So, are you ready? Are you ready to stop pretending? To stop performing? To stop trying to be someone you're not? Are you ready to face the void? To sit in the fire? To let everything you think you know burn away? Are you ready to die before you die, so you can finally start living? Drop a comment below. Tell me, what frequency are you choosing today? Not the one you've been running on autopilot, the one you're consciously choosing right now, in this moment, as you read these words. Because that choice, that's where it all begins. That's the seed of transformation. That's how you change your life. Not through force, through frequency. And the universe, it's waiting to match you. So what signal are you going to send?